Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Isabel Hendricks, Content Marketing Manager here at Opkey, and I'm so excited to welcome you to today's very topical webinar. We are going to give everyone a couple minutes to jump on, but in the meantime, I'll share a little about what we're doing here at Opkey and why it matters to users of Oracle EBS and Fusion especially. So we are an AI-enabled no-code test automation platform, and we are a certified Oracle partner, and we've really found our sweet spot in developing and advancing test automation that not only saves you time, but also lets you get the most advantage out of your systems. In the past several months, especially, we've found incredible success and incredibly positive feedback from our customers, especially in the use of AI. So I'm sure we always joke that AI has become so buzzy, it's kind of hard to say anything new about it. And that's why we focus on the tangible gains and the strategic benefits. So we don't want to just bring you a bunch of hype. We want to bring you actual results and actual use cases that it can help you with. So Gavin here has a lot of experience in both walking through customers who are onboarding Opkey and getting feedback from customers that have already onboarded Opkey. He's going to be taking us through how recent advancements in Opkey's AI platform are really going to help you test faster, test easier. We're going to be talking about different types of AI, including natural language processing, machine learning, agentic AI, generative AI. And everything from our proprietary chatbot, which uses specific ERP language to help you write commands just the way you would speak to a coworker, to things like impact analysis, which use machine learning algorithms to help you compare data sets, save time. And again, we're going to focus on the wins here because we know you're busy and we know that you have a lot of things to do besides worry about testing. So our hope is that you'll start to see Opkey as an ally in testing and some of these AI features as truly almost magical additions to your testing processes. A little housekeeping, please feel free to drop any questions you have in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We will take those as they come, and there will also be a delineated Q&A section at the end. We will send you out a recording of this webinar, so don't worry if you feel that you've missed anything. And if you have any more personal questions about your specific use case, your company, your EBS, your Fusion apps, please reach out to Gavin or sales@opkey.com. You can visit our website for a wide variety of blogs, white papers, videos, other webinars. We're really here for any questions you might have. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Gavin.
Thank you very much, Isabel. Awesome intro. And thanks everyone for, as Isabel said, taking the time today. Really appreciate you jumping on and wanting to learn a little bit more about who we are, what we do, what we have to offer, and of course, the way that we're helping customers solve challenges throughout their testing practice today with our platform. Isabel, I love what you said about AI. It is very buzzy today. Everyone claims to have AI that can actually help in some way. A lot of times that's not necessarily the case. I really like to think about AI as a utility, and this platform as a utility, just in the sense that it should actually help you glean some sort of real result at the end of the day, and it should be deployed in pieces of platforms, whatever it is, testing platforms included, where it's actually having an impact on areas that are problem areas for a lot of customers and the way that they're handling things today. So we'll get into that today. Our focus today, of course, is going to be on how you would use Opkey to solve challenges that you might be facing in Oracle EBS and Oracle Fusion. Like Isabel said, if you do want to reach out to us at some point, maybe after the webinar, while the focus today is on these two applications, these two areas, certainly not the only applications that we're competent in as a tool and as a company. And we do serve a wide variety of what we call named enterprise applications, but we'll stick to the Oracle suite today. We'll take you through some some of our solutions to the problems after we've laid out what some of those common challenges are. Hopefully the challenges resonate and the solutions seem to make sense. We'll go over a customer case study as well, just to give you a real life example of a customer that we've actually been working with for quite some time, 3 years or so. And, talk about practically, like, there's a tool for everything. A tool sounds great, but, what are they actually achieving? What have they been able to take away as wins for their team, as well as to take to leadership, and tell them, hey, this investment is paying off for us in some sort of a real tangible way. I'll also give everyone a sneak peek of what the platform looks like. So I think I'll probably stick to the Oracle Cloud side of things today, but you'll hear a lot of talk today about advanced capabilities that we have within the platform, that help in some of the areas, again, that are typically challenge areas when you're thinking about bringing a product like this into your environment. So I'll talk about it a lot in theory through the slides, but then I'll actually give you a glance of how this looks and feels within the platform to try to tie the practical side to it. So with that being said, we can get into some of the challenges, and I'm gonna break these out kind of into EBS challenges and cloud challenges. Of course, some of the challenges are common between the two different applications. Some of the challenges are a little bit unique to whichever application you may have in your environment today and you're looking to test. So starting at the top, there's this push in our environments, like when we're thinking about legacy customers that have been using Oracle EBS for quite some time, and they're wanting to go through a digital transformation internally. They want to move their infrastructure from EBS to Oracle Cloud in a migration. If any of you on the call have experienced this, all of the hard work and effort and different people that are involved in the process. It's quite a heavy lift. Even just when you're thinking about taking those processes from EBS and putting them into Fusion and making sure that everything is migrated correctly. You start with your boardroom sessions, your conference room pilots. You go through a number of different configuration changes in Fusion as you're starting to lift and shift. And then, of course, you're getting to the point where your production environment is ready to go, ready to be used by users. You're starting to get some value out of it from a business perspective. That itself typically takes anywhere between 12 and 24 months to do. But one of the common things that causes hiccups in that process is lack of a good testing process, lack of a testing tool that's able to handle that process. So we'll show you some of those solutions again after, but that whole flow, that whole workflow that again takes quite a lot of time, can be cut down drastically using the Opkey tool, especially when you're thinking about SIT testing cycles, UAT testing cycles, those cycles that are happening as you're getting much closer to being fully migrated. Another thing with either of these systems, right? Whether you're thinking about staying in EBS until you absolutely are kicked off of it. We all know that date continues to shift down the line. So whether you're doing that or you're already in Oracle Cloud, almost certainly you're going to have integrations with whichever one you're on. These systems are made like this. Of course, you have third-party applications, whether they're other named applications or just simple web desktop systems that are lesser known or homegrown or whatever the situation might be. These are often, again, overlooked in a immature testing program, but they're often the most critical flows to look at. They're the most critical flows to be tested when you're going through a quarterly patch in Oracle Fusion, or you're going through a version upgrade in EBS. So we'll talk a little bit about how we can handle those integration flows within the tool. Another thing, especially when we're really both, I guess, but EBS and cloud alike, there is certainly a lot of customization, configuration that you can do. I know that everyone's system is a little bit different. Not many people are using either of these applications as they are standard out of the box. So we'll talk a little bit about how we address those from a testing perspective. And then, of course, script maintenance, right? Tying this back into what Isabel said about AI that's actually useful in areas, especially in Oracle Cloud. You have these cycles, quarterly patches. The upgrades are typically coming, whether you like them or not. Some customers, that may vary slightly, but more or less, Oracle will be pushing new functionality to your environments, especially like thinking about Oracle HCM Redwood differences that are happening that we've seen over the last couple of patches, and then will continue to happen. Having a tool that has a bit of a AI play to actually show you where the changes are going to happen, and then go so far as to allow you to heal your test scripts on the spot versus having to go in and do clunky maintenance in a spreadsheet or in a tool that's code-based. This is really where many of our customers, especially the Oracle Cloud customers, see a ton of value. And we'll get into that in the case study, but cutting down testing cycles from 2 weeks, like using the full 2-week window that Oracle gives you, to just a couple of days. There are, of course, some other, I would consider the challenges that we just went over the primary challenges. Of course, there are secondary challenges that come out of the testing process. Understanding the full scope of what you should be testing, being able to evaluate that in a logical way, not even a logical way, but with a tool to back up that scope evaluation. Being able to actually document what's happening. A lot of times, especially in customers that I talk to that have manual testing practices, documentation is often just a bunch of functional users going in every quarter and taking manual screenshots as they manually click through flows. That's all tidied up within our tool and done in an autonomous way. Again, being able to test with every change that you make, whether it's a quarterly patch change that's happening, or even if you just desire to make changes yourself, right? To continuously improve your Fusion environment or EBS environment to make it better for end users more frequently, whatever that looks like for you. Again, having a tool to be able to back up the testing that should be taking place when you're making those changes is very, very important. Across the bottom, again, you're seeing impact analysis, end-to-end integration testing, user acceptance testing. These are all, part of the conversation, certainly. And we do have solutions for those within the tool. So let's think about the first primary challenge that we just went over. EBS upgrade testing, as well as EBS migration testing. Typically, if we're thinking about EBS upgrade testing first, you may be going from a 12.1 to a 12.2, or call it 12.x to 12.x. You're taking on one of these big patches that needs to have a number of different things happening from a testing perspective to make sure that you're certifying that this large change is going to work well when it hits your production environments. You have the ability to break all of these different test runs out within our tool. You also have the ability to, the tool is scalable in the sense of executions that need to happen. So, being able to quickly stand up a library of EBS scripts and then putting them into their respective runs. So whether it's a sanity run or a smoke run or your just full regression run, and then being able to actually just press a button and be hands off when it comes to execution, allowing our execution agent bots to actually click through the flows, enter the data the way that you've set them up within the tool. This cuts testing times down from, with EBS upgrades, from what I've found personally in these conversations, is that it can take more than 2 weeks just to get through testing, right? It can take 4 weeks, it can take 6 weeks. Having everything in one place and being able to be hands off with the executions saves a ton of time, a ton of effort, and really your job just becomes, depending on where you sit, of course, but your job just becomes taking a look at results, finding any inconsistencies, and then maybe making a couple of changes here and there to your scripts to rectify those inconsistencies. When we're thinking about implementations and migrations, customer like Northwell Health, for example, has been with us for quite some time, 5 or 6 years. They've actually gone through a migration from EBS to Oracle Fusion. Same with the customer like the Gap, same thing. They've gone from EBS to Fusion environment. We talked a little bit about like what that flow looks like, but what's actually happened practically, and something that's really not even in the slide, but something that's good to know, is that a lot of times you'll have a system integrator that you'll bring on board to help you with this migration, right? So, think the Big Four, think whoever your system implementer of choice, system integrator of choice is. What we've actually found is that by partnering with these system integrators, they're able to leverage our platform for, as early as, after conference room pilot is completed, to be able to start to incrementally stand up a test suite for Oracle Fusion as they begin to, configure these systems. What that does is it allows you to test more continuously, right? It allows those system integrators to ensure that as they're making these incremental changes, things are working as they should be throughout that entire engagement. But then really when they get to SIT or UAT, where the regression cycles are heavier, it's much more crucial at these stages for testing to take place, like as you're getting ready to go live in production. They've used the Opkey tool to build these test cases out incrementally, so it's no longer having to stall the project for 3 or 4 weeks to make sure that all the tests are in place for the regression cycle. But it becomes, okay, we've iterated on this over the past 12 months. We have a test bed ready to go, and all we have to do is execute that test bed. Last but not least, the classic example of once you're live, once you're migrated, once you're normalized into your Oracle Fusion environment in the cloud. Again, understanding what's happening in these quarterly patches is historically has been a really big lift for the teams involved, whether they're technical or functional or both. It usually looks something like this. It usually looks like Oracle sends a customer a 500-page PDF a couple of weeks before the patch takes place. It's now on your team, again, whether technical or functional, to go through that PDF, see what might be changing in the environment, and try to go back into an Excel spreadsheet where test steps are kept and make the changes to the sheet accordingly, or to your coded scripts in a tool like Selenium, for example. That takes a lot of time and effort and communication and trying to understand what's happening just from written word and translating it into wherever you keep your tests today or however you're handling your testing today. Again, we'll show you within the tool, but this process specifically becomes very autonomous. Our tool can literally take a snapshot of, say, a 24B Oracle Fusion environment. Then as the patch comes into your lower environment, like your 24C patch, we can take another snapshot of what that environment looks like and then show you very quickly, side by side, what's changed, what's a little bit different, how those changes are affecting your test scripts, and then being able to maintain those scripts just with a click of a button. So again, all very normal use cases, I would say, all very primary use cases that we handle with customers that are in different parts of this journey. I'm clicking here, not arrowing. Again, how do we do it? It's with a platform, right? So we're offering a platform. We're not a service company. This is a piece of technology, piece of software that you license, that you can onboard your users into internally. Certainly, like if you have a system implementer, if you're in that bucket, we can onboard them as well if we're not already strategically involved with them. I think you'll find that with a lot of the bigger names out there, we are already strategically involved with them in some sense. They likely have teams that are already up and running and enabled and know how to use this platform. But once you have licenses to the software, you turn it on. That's really where the fun starts. And again, this slide just kind of reiterates everything that we've talked about so far in terms of AI capabilities to help you in every step of the process. So from understanding what's been tested historically, if you've been a customer of Oracle Fusion, you've been live on Oracle Fusion for a while, being able to automate those end-to-end scripts, being able to autonomously generate data for these scripts. This is an area that is often overlooked, I think, in the testing cycle. Like, how do we actually get data into these scripts and the correct data into these scripts? Our AI engines and data creation can help you with that. Again, impact analysis, of course, and then being able to really pull out documentation from the tool. Not so AI driven on the documentation side, but super easy for users to pick up when it comes to generating reports and artifacts and how different tests or like release cycles are going, how different test cycles are going. What are we doing on time? I'm gonna skip through a couple of these and just get to, I really want to highlight, again, a lot of this has been highlighted already, and we'll get to this in the tool. One thing that we haven't talked about for either of these applications, for Fusion or for EBS, is that outside of some of the capabilities that you'll see within the tool today, things like test discovery and impact analysis, We've been doing this for quite a while. With that maturity that we have in the Oracle space, one of the big things that helps to get customers up and running on this tool is our libraries of pre-built test scripts. Here at Opkey, we call them accelerators. And these scripts in Fusion, as you see, we have about 7,000. They cover all the different functional areas of Fusion, from finance to SCM to HCM to EPM. Whatever your Fusion environment might look like, or whatever module selection you've made, we likely have pre-built scripts to cover it. This really helps with again, when you're thinking about implementing a tool like this, it's the onboarding time that this helps with greatly. Typically, you're turning on a tool like ours with a blank slate. It's going to take quite some time for you to use a record and playback engine or rely on services from your provider to build out what your core library would be, what your standard library of test scripts would be. With these pre-built scripts, we can easily get you to the point, quickly get you to the point where you have that standard test bed, and not only the standard test bed, but actually some additional scripts that from the AI features within Opkey, we can suggest to you and say, hey, if you're concerned with test coverage, if you want to continue to build up your test coverage, thereby de-risking your environment further, these are yours to use from a pre-built perspective. And I'll show you how that works within the tool. But this is, again, something that's not so often talked about, in terms of a benefit of this tool. But really, when you think about the cost of downtime in one of these big business applications like an Oracle Fusion, our philosophy is the more testing that you can do, the more covered that you can be, the more de-risked that environment is. So that's a pretty big win, again, to take to leadership or to take to whoever it might be, to say, not only are we doing, we're not just testing a standard stagnant test bed here, we're really increasing our coverage and trying to be a little bit proactive, right, for the business, in the sense that we want to make sure that really nothing is going to break in production and cause downtime. The EBS library is about 3,000 today, and it's the same thing. Covers all of the major modules, and these test assets within our tool are reusable in nature, and they're broken out into, like, the way that we think about building a test case is with reusable activity components. So not only do you have test scripts, kind of the way that we've seen them historically tailored in terms of business process flow, but you also have all the building blocks that go into making up those scripts. So you can easily just drag and drop or key in some of the pre-built components to a flow of your choosing, if ours aren't, exactly the way that you want them to be out of the box. And EBS also, we hear about load testing, performance testing a decent bit in our conversations, I would say. We won't go into that today necessarily in the demo, but if this is, also a piece of your testing practice that you're looking to beef up or make a little bit more autonomous, this is absolutely something we could have a conversation and a live demo of. So just let us know that. To get to some results here, before we jump into the tool itself, our case study today is the Wonderful Company. You probably know them from their wonderful pistachios and water and other snacks that you might get at the grocery store or on a road trip. A wonderful company joined us as a customer in, yeah, it's been about 3 years now. It's of course, a large company, several business units, uh, with several business units, several different ways that their Oracle Fusion system is set up, a lot of nuances. They're mostly focused on finance and supply chain management today. Of course, they have several, it's over 100 integrations with their Fusion system. So it is quite a complex environment. They were spending a lot of time, a lot of resources, having a lot of challenges before they came to us. To the tune of hundreds of people working on manual test scripts around these quarterly patches. I think we may have it on this slide. Oh, it's on this slide, 1,100 business processes and scenarios to test every quarterly patch. It was a huge burden. And since then, we got these, like the initial pack of the 1,100 base scripts up and running fairly quickly. The base scripts were done in 6 to 8 weeks. The integration scripts followed from there. Those often take some time to build out, but we got them to the point where, long story short, their patch cycles now take 3 days. They do leverage our managed quarterly patch services. This is something, again, won't get into, but if you want to ask about it, feel free to reach out. This basically means that they have a Opkey engineer that's assigned to their account that does a lot of the heavy lifting in the tool around the quarterly patches. So yeah, we've taken that SLA to hundreds of people doing hundreds of manual tests, in that 2-week window around every quarterly patch, to a 3-day certification with all the artifacts, all the different runs that they need to complete. And you see here on the right-hand side, I talked about test coverage. They're now seeing 98% test coverage within their environment. Before that, it was really just standard, right? It was whatever we have time to test for testing. Now they're going above and beyond that. And, again, really making sure that environment is de-risked, so that nothing breaks. So that's the wonderful company.
We have a quick question, Gavin.
Yeah.
How do we customize Oracle EBS migration to cloud?
It depends on what you mean by customize, I guess. Assuming that you mean customize scripts, really what happens is that, like, from a practical standpoint, you'll see, like, we talked about test discovery a little bit. Test discovery works not only for environments that are like a Fusion environment that's been live for, say, 3 years, for example, but test discovery also works for greenfield or brownfield environments. This is like when you're making that move from EBS to Fusion, that's kind of the category that you fall into. So what we can do really early on within the tool is take a technical impression snapshot with test discovery of the Fusion environment. And if you're greenfield or brownfield, this is going to happen after you've started to build some configurations into your system. And I'll show you why. So if I jump into this procure to pay flow, what you're seeing is a pre-created snapshot of procure to pay in Oracle Fusion. This is obviously a snapshot of an environment that's been live in Oracle Fusion for quite some time, presumably. And that's because we've been able to mine 70 different scenarios. And within those 70 scenarios, plenty of data sets per scenario out of this Oracle Fusion environment. Now, if I were someone that was moving from EBS to Oracle Fusion Cloud, I have some configurations, right? You see over here on the right-hand side, I have configurations that have been mined. I have DFFs that have been mined. None in this example, but in theory, if you have DFFs, they'll show here. What will happen is based on the configurations that you have set up within your Greenfield Fusion instance, we can still suggest test cases from our library to you, and you can customize those test cases from there with our test builder here. But your return in test discovery for the first time in a Greenfield environment will look more like mined 0 instead of 70, and then a bunch of suggested test cases where the AI piece of our tool is saying, hey, based on these configurations, here's what we think, here's the scenarios that we think that you should start to automate and execute. So that's kind of how that customization bit works, at least up front. Now, if we keep running with this example, like the example that's at hand here, again, we have 70 mine scenarios, right? So these mine scenarios, first I'm seeing them in an activity map, kind of a heat chart. And then I have anything that the duration over which I've mined, anything that's been done within this Fusion environment. So it looks like create and approve a catalog requisition is something that this environment has been doing, the customer environment has been doing. Create a catalog requisition, create and approve a non-catalog, receive a PO through standard delivery, right? These are different scenarios. If I click into one, you'll see I talked about reusable components, right? These test scripts are made up of small bite-sized chunks of activities. These are the bite-sized chunks of activities. Create the requisition, approve the requisition, end node. Now, not only is our tool returning the scenarios, the paths that have been followed, but there's also data involved, right? So there's data involved when you're logging into Fusion, when you're creating the requisition, approving it, etc. Our tool is able to take those data combos and create unique test cases out of the box. So in this case, for creating and approving the requisition, there are 34 different combinations and permutations of data that we can fill this flow with, that the tool can fill this flow with. All I have to do to automate one of those different data combinations is to go to one that's not automated, press the automate button, wait for a moment, and eventually here you'll see that this gets automated, and I'll show you what this actually looks like as a test script. Now, just to be clear, automation means our tool is taking our pre-built components and matching them up to this business process. That's what the process of automation is. What happens is you get a test case that looks like this. And I have my login component, I have my create catalog requisition component, and I have my approve the requisition component. These, if I expand them, all have the proper steps, right? Open a browser, launch my Fusion URL, enter a username, a password, so on and so forth. Then I'm going into the Fusion tool, I'm navigating, I'm removing items from cart, I'm entering a discount, things of that nature, right? So this is my full flow. Now, again, to kind of touch on the customization question, this test case is now mine to do what I want with. If I want to add a step, for example, and it's a pre-built component, all I need to do is search for a component of some sort. Let's keep it simple and say like close browser. I want to add that here. I just key it in, add it, and then there's steps that are within this pre-built component that say, we're basically just closing everything down. And you can do this for any, if I want to, for some reason after this, like create an invoice. I can just add that component to this flow. So that's, for customizations, that's about as difficult as it is. If it's a customization that's not in the pre-built library, all I have to do is pop on this record button, choose the correct recorder, so Oracle Fusion, and I'll actually just open a recorder. We'll also open an Oracle Fusion window, click through the process one time, and then that reusable pre-built component is there for me to use whenever I want as a user of this tool. So this is the bouncing back to discovery just for a moment more. We went over mined cases, suggested cases. This is, the conversation of expanding test coverage. Our AI will tell you based on configurations that you've already set up, hey, here are some other scripts, here are some other scenarios within the Opkey tool that you might want to think about automating to expand your test coverage. If they haven't been tested, they're likely situations that you don't run into that often, like mismatching a PO, correcting a receipt, doing things of that nature. But these are all the same, right? I can just click in, I can see the steps here, and I can automate this and add it to a run. Maybe I call this suite, test coverage expansion suite, and go from there. Now, discovery is typically used when onboarding this tool and getting everything situated into automated suites. When we're thinking about how would we identify the changes that are happening around a quarterly patch, for example, we would use this impact analysis tool. Again, all I need to do here is take a couple of technical impression snapshots. They take, maybe 7 minutes a piece to actually take and populate. After I have the two snapshots that I want to compare, say 23C with 23D, I can just select the appropriate snapshots and go ahead and create my impact report. What gets returned is something that looks like this. And again, really, like, this is a benefits workflow. I have like a receipt workflow here in these snapshots. On the right-hand side, what you're going to see is that I have an expected results column and I have an actual results column. So you can think of this as, 23C versus 23D, whatever those releases might be. And again, our tool is showing you side by side. You start to see some differences here as I scroll down, right? So it looks like a delete button got added to the manage receipt form with the new change. And if I go down to edit receipt, whole lot going on with edit receipt. We've had some buttons get removed. Add open receivables got removed from this receipt details tab. Some of these fields went from mandatory to non-mandatory. You'll always see those in an orange yellow color. Then anything again that's getting added is in a green color. So not only am I seeing everything that's changing in front of me, I also have the ability to go ahead and run like any test script that's affected by the changes that we saw on the last screen. They'll all be listed out here. I can simply just select this list and create a test suite against it, put it out for execution. But before I create the test suite, I want to make sure that my changes are actually in my scripts. So all I need to do, like for this form, to make sure that this is healed up is press this self-heal button. I see the reusable component here. Set a receipt. All I have to do is select it, press heal. The AI ML does its work. This is now healed, and I should be able to go into test here. This component gets pulled to the top. And if I scroll down through all these different activities, I start to see auto-generated fields, right? It's auto-generated. It's based on the impact analysis report that we just showed you. So that's what the whole maintenance cycle for a quarterly patch becomes. Quick identification, quick heal, and you're on your way in terms of being able to execute these again and being ready to give the nod to certify, whatever version we're talking about into production. That's kind of how that piece works practically. And I think we're kind of at time here.
We are. Thank you so much, Gavin. I think we have time for one or two questions if anyone wants to pop their question below. All right, we have the question. We're a little intimidated since we are still fully manual of switching not only to automation, but AI automation. Can you speak a little bit about onboarding and any training that is provided?
Yeah, definitely. It can be daunting for sure. Yeah, we do this in a couple of different ways. Customer experience and being able to get onboarded smoothly is something that we take very seriously here. Of course, like we don't want to be the tool that you get excited about and buy and then it sits on a shelf. And that I don't think that that's the nature of this tool anyways, to be fair. But it does happen in the software world. So what we try to do is break training out into live sessions. So every customer gets 5 live sessions where they're going through an iterative process of learning the basics first and then getting more advanced and granular as they go. Those sessions are about an hour a piece, and we do have a dedicated e-learning team that leads those sessions. They get introduced from the sales team. So we do that. And then you also have the option as a customer to sign up for Opkey University. These are on-demand training courses. There's plenty of knowledge in that LMS. And from there, really with the mix of live trainings and Opkey University trainings, we get to the point where you have some SMEs, whether functional or technical, within your organization that are certified on the Opkey platform. And that's really what we're shooting for. We're always here to help as well, right? We have a technical support team. Customer success manager gets assigned to your account right at the very beginning of every engagement. So they're always there to be your main point of contact. And then we have project teams as well that depending on the engagement, will be there to help you through the initial implementation. So yeah, quite a lot of options.
Indeed. And like Gavin emphasized, we are very passionate about training you on these tools since there's definitely not much point in going forward if it doesn't actually bring value. Let's see, we're going to take one more question here. I'm interested in the impact analysis feature. Can you speak a little bit about how exactly this could help my team save time?
Yeah. I mean, the time savings is, I think that like if you take the small example that we looked at is a bit of a microcosm, and then think about all of the different test scripts that you might have within your environment, right? Maybe you're thinking about, maybe you have 1,000, 1,500 test scripts that are going to be part of a regression pack every single quarterly cycle. It really helps you to scale your efforts, I guess, is the bottom line when it comes to change identification and then like the actual maintenance aspect that needs to take place. If you if you think about 1,500 rows in an Excel sheet and the steps that it takes to log in, enter data, press buttons, whatever it might be. If you think about the effort that it takes to go into each and every one of those cells and maintain that, and then actually have to go and key that in manually or have a team of people key that stuff in manually, versus a quick identification, being able to press a button that says heal, being able to press a button that says run. Again, it's the wonderful company, it's the Gap, it's Cheniere Energy, it's all of our Oracle Fusion primary customers are seeing that time taken cut down immensely, right? Everyone is going from 2-week windows to 3 to 5 days, essentially. And I think that that's really where it starts to make sense.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gavin, for laying out these tools and these features. I know it helps make them a lot more accessible to see them in action. That is all we have time for today. I want to thank everyone who jumped on. If you caught us on the recording, thank you as well. And obviously a huge shout out to Gavin for sharing his experience and his expertise. Again, we hope to hear from you guys and provide you any answers you might need.
Likewise. Shout out to Isabel. Thank you. Get it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.